Hey, what's up guys? I'm back today with another tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a custom intro from scratch. We're going to be using 3 programs to do this. Adobe Photoshop CS6 is one. We're going to create our custom emblem inside Adobe Photoshop CS6. We're going to take that design, we're going to import it into Cinema 4D and turn that emblem or logo into a 3-dimensional object. And then once we get that texturized and animated inside Cinema 4D, get the final render, we're going to import it into Adobe After Effects CS6 and do some post-production. This tutorial is probably going to be fairly long. I may do 2 different parts. I'm not sure yet. But anyways, with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go into Adobe Photoshop CS6. And immediately right here, you're going to see my custom logo that I've done here. Basically, all I did was draw some random shapes. So let me create a new layer real quick just to demonstrate this. This is going to be the emblem that I will be using for the tutorial. So with their pen tool selected, you can just select that by pressing P on your keyboard. You're just going to draw out a random design. And it doesn't matter what. It can be anything you want, of course. And once you get your design completed, you're just going to right click and hit fill path, and you're going to fill it with a color. So if I just hit use background color, since my background color is set to black, you'll notice that it fills that shape with black. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that real quick. Alright, and you may notice these turquoise bluish green lines. These are basically guides in case you don't know what that is, and this is just to keep everything centered and proportionate of each other. Mine's not exactly perfect, but it's pretty close. If you have your rulers enabled, like you can see here up at the top and the side, if you just go to view and go to rulers and click that on, make sure that's checked, it will show these. If you just click and drag from the top, it will drag in a guide for you, and you can put that anywhere you wish. This particular size of this document here is 800 by 800. So if I just go here and drag a guide down and I go to where it says Y.800 IN, that means I'm exactly halfway in the center of this image here. And same with the side here on the left. If we click and drag a guide over and we go to 0.800, this is exactly halfway as well. And right here on the center point, this indicates the exact center of this whole image. And you can basically set these guides up to, like I said, make things more proportionate and symmetrical. They come in very handy and very useful. I use them in a lot of things that I do in Photoshop, and I would recommend you guys do the same if you really want your design to be symmetrical. So this is just my design that I'm going to be using. And real quick, if you want to turn the guides off, you can just hit Command or Control and press the semicolon key, and that will toggle your guides on and off to make them visible or non-visible. So that is the logo I'm going to be using. With that's covered, let's go ahead and get to creating the path that we're going to import into Adobe After Effects. So what I'm going to do is, once again with the pen tool selected, now that I have my emblem created, I'm just going to basically, might want to turn my guides on for this, going to outline this particular object. So you may want to zoom in here, so if you just hit Command and the plus button, if you're on Mac, or Control and the plus button, you'll zoom in. And we're just going to go around this design that I have created. And you can see I got a little bit off there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but try to be fairly accurate with this. And we're just going to continue going around the emblem, trying to be as precise as possible. If you mess up, you can just hit Command or Control Z to undo the change. I'm going to have to zoom in here because it keeps wanting to jump to the guide. I want to turn those off. And we're going to go down here. So all we're doing right now is just basically outlining the emblem that we created with the pen tool so that we have basically a spline path to import into Cinema 4D. So I may just speed this video up because this is a little tedious. Alright, so I just finished that up, guys. If we just turn off the emblem, you can actually see the outline of the path that we have created. So it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty close to our original design. And really, once we have that, we can go up to File, we can go to Export, and just click on Paths to Illustrator. And make sure it says on Paths, make sure it says Work Path, and then just press OK. And then we're going to name this whatever. I'm just going to call it Emblem Creation, and it'll be a .ai Adobe Illustrator file, Adobe Illustrator format. Just save it to the desktop. Alright, and now we're pretty much done in Cinema 4D, so I'm just going to save this real quick. Let's go ahead and open up Cinema 4D. Alright, and once we got Cinema 4D open, we're just going to go up to File, we're going to go to Open, and we're going to click on the .ai file, which is Emblem Creation in this case, and just press Open. And let's go ahead, we'll scale this up to 2 to make it a little bit bigger. And there you have it. That is basically the spline path of the emblem we just created inside of Photoshop CS6. Right now there's technically no geometry to this, so if we were to press the render preview button, you're not going to see anything. If we open this up, you'll see our 2 different paths here, and let's just go to add geometry to this. Let's pull each path out of this null object that was automatically created. We can get rid of that. Let's go to the hyperNurbs icon, check on hyperNurbs, or not hyperNurbs, what am I doing? Go to extrude NURBS, excuse me, and drag in path 1 into the extrude NURBS like so, and then we'll drop in a second extrude NURBS and drag in the second path like so. And this may be a little bit too thick at this point, so if we just click on the extrude NURBS, we can actually, if we select the movement here, we can bring this number down if we want. So I can do something like 10, so it's half as thick as it was. I'm also going to do the same with this one as well. Let's go ahead and bring this down to 10 as well. Alright, so now that we made this object three-dimensional, let's just go ahead and highlight everything here in the hierarchy, and let's just press Alt-G on the keyboard to group this together. And once again, we can double click on the null and rename it. I'll just call it emblem, and that way we can move this around, move this object around without accidentally moving one piece like so. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's change the center axis point on this emblem, because right now it's not even on the object. So check on this little enable axis modification button. You just press L on your keyboard, and this is where we're going to move the point in which the emblem will rotate around. This makes animating and stuff like that a little bit easier. So I'm just going to drag it up, straight up like so. We're going to try to find the center point of the object. We may need to go to different views, so just click this little icon up there. And let's just, it doesn't have to be exact, just in the relative location. So here in my top view, I'm just lining it up from the top, and then here I'm just going to try to center it as best as I can. Alright, so that'll work for right now. It doesn't have to be exact. Like I said, just relatively close. So now our axis point is in the center of the emblem, and we will rotate and maneuver around that axis point. So make sure you go ahead and set that up correctly. And then we'll just click on Enable Axis Modification, or just press L on the keyboard again to disable that. And now we can move on to the next step. But let's just go ahead and center this object, because right now it's off-centered, of course. Just select it here in the hierarchy, and then go to the X position, change that to 0, change the Y to 0, and we'll change the Z to 0. Alright guys, now that we got our emblem created and it's inside Cinema 4D, we've got our axis point adjusted, and we've got the emblem centered inside Cinema 4D. We're pretty much ready to texture the emblem at this point in time. I have a texture pack. I did not create this texture pack. I'll provide a link to it down in the description so you guys can download it. So yeah, once you guys have it, you'll just go up to Window. Once you have it installed, you go to Window, Content Browser, and this is what it's going to be named right here in your content browser. And it basically comes with these materials. They're all really good, high resolution materials. So let me just find a material that I want to use. We'll just go with Metal 2, I guess. It's a pretty nice material. Just double click on it to drop it into your scene, and then we're just going to click and drag it right onto the cube, like so. And let me go ahead and import a camera right now that we have this, now that we're centered inside Cinema 4D. So we'll just go ahead and drag and drop in a camera. That way we can maneuver around our window and we don't lose where we had positioned the camera, because I want to show you guys something. If we just tick this on, you can see we're right back where we were. So when you first apply this emblem on, or first apply this texture onto the emblem, you're going to see that it appears just on the sides here and not on the front. And that's because we need to click on the texture tag here and change the projection from UVW mapping to, say, cubic. And then you'll notice that the texture gets applied to the emblem here. You may want to check on seamless so you don't see the tiling if there is any. And we're going to change the length U to 200 and then the length V to 200. And basically that's just going to make this texture a little bit more higher resolution, I guess. And we're also going to apply the same material to this piece as well. So to duplicate it, just hold Command or Control and click and drag this material onto the next piece, and it should apply the exact specs to that piece as well. And if we render it, then there you have it. Once again, so there's our emblem. We've now got it textured. Looks pretty nice. So really at this point in time, we're ready to start lighting our scene, and then once we do that, we can go ahead and start animating what's going to be our intro. Alright, so let's go ahead and set up our lighting real quick. Let's just go up to the light icon here and go to regular omnidirectional light, which means it's going to emit light in all directions. And we're just going to drag this out in front a little bit and then drag it up. And make sure that with the light selected that you go down to shadow and you go to shadow map soft. And once again, we're just going to double click on this light. I'm going to rename that to top light, and then we're going to duplicate this light. So just Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V to duplicate that light, and we'll call the duplicated one the bottom light. And we're just going to go to the Y coordinate down here with bottom light selected and just put a minus in front of the number there, and that way the two lights are proportionate to each other. So if we just check back on our camera real quick and give this a quick render, we'll have to see what we have right now. Alright, so that's not looking too bad. May want to adjust these a little bit. I don't know if I want to do that or not. Let's just drag this bottom light down a little bit more, and let's just drag this top light up a little bit more. And we need to go under render settings real quick. Let's just click on this edit render settings button and go to effect and add in some ambient occlusion, so we might be able to get some better shadows here. May not be that noticeable, but it definitely helps the render. And we'll also go back into our render settings, go to effect, and we'll add in some GI or global illumination. And just so this renders faster, let's go to the irradiance cache tab and change the stochastic samples from medium to low and the record density to low. And we'll leave the rest of these settings as they are. Let's go ahead and give this a quick render. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. However, I do want to add a little bit more detail to this texture. So, because right now to me it looks a little bit dull. So I'm going to go back into my content browser. And some of these, like these right here, these are overlays that you can add to materials you've already applied to certain things. So maybe if I just add one of these, it might look a little bit more detailed. Let's just double click on this overlay, for example, and let's just drag this on that. Change the projection from cubic, or from UVW mapping to cubic, and see what that looks like. Alright, so it looks a little bit more roughed up. I think that looks a little bit better. Let's just check on seamless, and let's once again increase the length U and the length V. Make this a little bit more high resolution. Alright, yeah, that kind of darkens this piece a little bit. I kind of like that. I think I'll leave it at that. So right now probably be a good point to save. So let's just go ahead and hit save as, and we'll name this whatever. So we save the project to our desktop. And that is that, guys. So we're almost ready to start animating this emblem and create what's going to be our final animation. Okay, so let's go back into our render settings real quick. Let's go to the output. Let's go ahead and change our frame range from current frame to all frames. And let's go to the output width and height. Go to this little triangle here and go to web, or actually go to film/video, and then just choose this HDV/HDTV 720 preset. So it's a widescreen preset, and that looks okay. So go ahead and give this a quick render again, see what we got. Alright, so that's the emblem that we've created so far. It's looking pretty nice, I think. So let's go ahead and start animating this. Alright, so let's just go ahead and click off our camera here so that we can see it in our scene. And let's give ourselves some more frames to work with. So instead of having like 90 frames, let's just do something like 300 for right now. May have to adjust that later. Let's go to frame 120. And let's go ahead and grab our emblem here. Alright, so basically we're going to be doing a simple move here. This emblem is going to come swooping down above the camera, and then it's going to rest in this position right here. So let's just keyframe with the emblem selected. Let's just press this little keyframe button on any frame you desire. I happen to use 120. Just going to press that, and then let's go to the beginning, and let's drag, clicking on the blue axis, which is your depth, or the z-axis. We're just going to click and drag this directly forward and all the way through the camera. And let's go ahead and keyframe that. And then let's just drag it above the camera, like so. Maybe not quite as much. Keyframe that. So this is the move that we have right now. So you can see it just kind of comes into place there. So I think we need to add a fill light. So I think a third light would be pretty beneficial right now, because you can see that this emblem's pretty dark up until it gets pretty much in its resting position before it gets lit up. So let's just go ahead and duplicate one of these lights here. So I'll just do the bottom light, doesn't really matter. And we'll just call this fill. And I'll go ahead and change the Y coordinates to 0. That way it puts it directly in the center of our screen pretty much. And let's just drag it back. And let's kind of preview how much of this is going to be in light. Alright, so right there. Go ahead and give this test render and see what that's going to look like. Maybe a little bit too much. We definitely want to adjust the brightness of this fill light, so instead of it being at 100%, let's just bring it down to like 15, so it's not doesn't really shine too bright. And let's see what this looks like right here. May even go down more than that, maybe like 10. So it's fairly subtle, and then it finally, when it comes to its resting place, it gets quite a bit brighter, as you can see there. Alright, so with all that stuff covered, I think we're ready to go ahead and add the last bit of animation to this emblem. So let's just go ahead and check off our camera once more. And on frame 0, let's just select the emblem here, and let's just give it a nice little random rotation. Don't click on any of the axes, just do a nice little random move and press the keyframe button once you've made the move. And then whenever we play this, you can see our emblem has a nice little rotation to it. So if we check on the camera there, click on that little dot there and make it turn white, you'll see the move we have. So a very simple basic move, nothing too special there. Let's go ahead and give this a quick render. Check to make sure lighting's doing alright. So there, you can't even see it yet. And now it suddenly starts to become visible. And then it really becomes visible. So I'm kind of not liking that right now. I think we need to adjust our fill light once again. So let's just bring this up to 15%, and let's just take off Shadow Map Soft, and let's adjust this position of this. Do something like that. Let's go ahead and render this out real quick and see what that looks like. Alright, so that looks a little bit better. Going to increase this the intensity of this light a little bit more, maybe to 25%. So a lot of this is just trial and error, but that's looking pretty good. So I think we'll leave it at that, guys. Alright, so that's looking good. Here's our basic move there. And it comes into the scene like so. Okay, so we have our basic animation done. Now we just need to add text in here. So to do that, let's just go ahead and go up to MoGraph. Let's go to Mo Text. And you can really see how small this emblem is in comparison to the text. So we're just going to go to our scale tool, and we're just going to scale the text down, and click on the text here, go to font, wait for this to load real quick, and we're going to select a font that we like. I'm going to use this font Night font, and I'm just going to change this to say, just drag that over, and then we're going to drag this. Let's go to our top view and make this easier. We're going to drag the text out in front of the emblem here, and it's way too thick right now, so I'm going to change the depth from like 20 to maybe like 5, and we're just going to try to center this up in front of the emblem like so. Let's go ahead and give that a quick render and see what that looks like. Now, it's not going to look that good, obviously, because we don't have any textures applied to the text at this point in time, but may need to drag this over a little bit more. I typically like to add fillet caps on some occasions. So with text selected, go to caps and go to start and add a fillet cap, and then go to end and add a fillet cap. And you may want to scale this down a little bit. So it's just kind of a subtle little beveled edge here. Alright, so it adds a nice little touch. I kind of feel like this text is still a little bit too big though, so once again I'm going to scale it down and we're going to drag this over. Alright, so that looks alright. Okay, so with our text set up now, we just need to go add a material to the text. So once again I'm going to go back to Window, go to Content Browser, and let's just find a nice texture to use with the text. Let's see, I'm going to try this, let's try this Metal 4 texture. Actually, let's try this Metal 1 texture to use on the text. I'm going to see what this looks like. I'm just going to change the projection from UVW once again to cubic, and let's just go ahead and give this a quick render and see what that looks like. Alright, so not really liking that too much. I'm going to go and get rid of that, and let's just drag this material 4 onto the text. Once again, change the projection from UVW to cubic. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Alright, that's not looking too bad. I'm going to go ahead and check on seamless again. And I'm going to make this texture a little bit more detailed. So I'm going to increase the length U and length V to 200%. I really don't know. Not sure I like that too much. Let's go ahead and try something else real quick. Try to get something we like. I'm gonna actually scroll down here and might use Texture Kit Pro here from Grayscale Gorilla. Let's go to Metal, and I kind of like this. Where is it at? I think it's this one actually. The Metal Truss texture. Let's go ahead and drag this on the text, see what that looks like. Alright, so I think that kind of looks pretty cool. Gonna check on seamless again. See what this looks like if I increase these numbers again real quick. Alright, so I kind of like that. I think I'm just going to use that texture. I don't want to spend too much time on this. But, so there's our text. Alright, so I'm just going to try to keep this fairly simple. We're going to do a basic little animation of the text here. So let's go with the text selected. Let's go to Basic, the Basic tab. And let's see. Alright, at frame 140, just check on where it says Visible in Editor and Visible in Renderer. Change these from default to off. Alright, and then we're going to Command or Control left click on each of these to create a keyframe here. And then on the very next frame, on frame 141, we're going to change these to on. And Command or Control left click to make the change. And that way, our text will not show up until our emblem is in place and it sits there for a few minutes. And for this tutorial, to keep this simple, you know, obviously you could do a lot more if you animate the text and whatnot. But to keep it simple, I'm just going to have the text slowly fade in when we do this in post-production. So it won't be this sharp. Excuse me, it won't be this sharp as you're seeing it now. It'll just fade in whenever we get to that point in Adobe After Effects. So for me, this basic intro is pretty much complete, other than, like I said, post-production and After Effects. So I think I'm going to do a second part for that. This will be the first part. Before I leave, though, I'll show you guys how to render this out real quick in the correct format and everything. So we'll leave it set there for about frame 220. Go and press enter, and let's go back up to our render settings real quick. Make sure we've got everything set up correctly. That's right, all frames. Save. I'll come back to that in a minute. We got ambient occlusion. You may want to mess with the anti-aliasing a little bit, depending on your own project. If I skip ahead in the timeline here, give this a quick render. If you're noticing that the edges of these of your emblem, for example, is looking kind of jagged, or if you've got a reflective material that's looking not very clear, that could be due to your anti-aliasing settings, because by default it's set to geometry. And if you're having those issues, you'll definitely notice it. So you may want to change your anti-aliasing from geometry to best, and then just play with the minimum and maximum levels. But every time you do that, just keep in mind it's going to take longer to render. But for my case, I don't really feel that's necessary, so I'm not going to mess with that. So really all we need to focus on right now is the save. We're going to render this in the TIFF format, PSD layers. Make sure you check on alpha channel. This will remove the black background so that we can add in our own custom background in post. And that should be that. And let's just go to File, click these three little dots, and choose what name you want to name your, basically your animation, I guess. So I'm just going to name it My Custom Intro. Go ahead and create a new folder though, because you're going to have a lot of files on your desktop if you just strictly save it to your desktop, because this is going to render out each individual frame as a single file. So your desktop would be pretty cluttered if you don't do this in a folder. So I'm just going to hit new folder. We'll call it intro, and just hit create. And then with intro, the intro folder selected, just we're going to save it as My Custom Intro and hit save. And it should pop up exactly where your render is going to be saved. So desktop, intro, the folder, and then the file name My Custom Intro. And that's a render setting. So when you're all set, all you need to do is just press this render button here, render to picture viewer, and it's going to go ahead and start rendering your animation. So this shouldn't take too long. And like I said, I think I'm going to do two separate parts. So in the next part, we'll be doing the post-production of this intro. So thank you guys for watching this part. Hope you guys learned something. If you did, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought, and I will see you guys in the next part. Peace.